Welcome, welcome, Caitlin McKay. How are you? It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. Doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, can't complain. I jump on your channel every once in a while to see what you're doing, and then I wonder how many realtors actually watch you and I because they don't want to pay for the Cromford report.
I know. I think there's a lot, actually. I think there's a lot, but
I'm
that's all
not,
right. Happy to
I'm not
do
going to
it.
call any of them out. I just think that I
Yeah.
like hearing from other agents, and I enjoy
Yeah.
getting a chance to get on with you and say. Where do you think this is headed? Because I've got my opinion and you've got yours, and we're not economists, so
Mhm.
we can only guess just like everybody else. Uh,
Mhm.
I turn my phone off here. Um, so let me just jump right to it. I mean, yesterday your video showed how inventory's going up. Now I thought that we were going to see a lot more expireds by now. That people were just dipping their toes in to see if they could get their price
Mhm.
and I've been wrong. Where do you see inventory levels this summer?
I think they will continue to climb. I think that you could still be right about the expireds. We just may not have seen it yet because I think what you're saying, like, in my mind, it probably makes sense that, like, those people that will maybe expire were waiting until the spring market to list, therefore, they maybe have only been on the market a month now, if that, and so those expireds may come in the summertime. Um, because, we all were anticipating the normal spring market, and it was like, "Okay, it's end of February, it's Super Bowl, here we go," and then it was like, uh and still kind of
I think
quiet.
I was on the opposite end of that. I was not trying to be a negative Nelly, but I was saying, I'm hearing a lot of people think this spring's going to be big, and I think it's going to be a dud.
Yeah, you were right. You're right.
And boy, I tell you what, Caitlin, wait till the numbers come out next week because I track this every on a 7-day moving average, and
Mhm,
sales taken a huge dip, and they will because it's Easter. So we
mhm,
gotta, wait another week for that to filter out. But new listings also popped up,
mhm.
and so the gap, between the two is going to grow even farther. So that chart that we look at in active listings is going to pop up about 600 homes.
Yeah, yep. I'm not surprised. I think people waited until the spring to list. Now those listings are listed, and for those that really didn't need to sell or didn't have to sell, we may see them cancel or expire in the dead of summer. Unless something crazy happens with rates. And I know everyone on my channel says rates aren't, stop talking about rates. It's not about rates. It is about rates for a lot of people. A lot
Oh, it
of
certainly
people.
is. Yeah. I mean, I
So,
get it. There's a big chunk where affordability is an issue, and it's just not going away anytime soon. And
mhm.
the argument can be made that the affordability issue is not going to be resolved for a long, long time. That's not something that's going to change. Here's
Mhm.
our friend Terry here says, you're the second best looking person on the show. Leave it to you, Terry, but I'm glad you're here. Yeah, that's, she's saying the same thing. She's going, I got this old dude on my channel. Uh,
No, no. Rick, you're awesome. And I watch you all the time to cheat and get some info too. Like, I think, all agents are doing to you always have some great things that you're tracking every single week and talking about and kind of doing some deep dives in areas that I don't look at. So, I get some great info from you too. We've been on my channel, I've been looking at the new listings added each month. Every week, we're looking at, like, each month, how many new listings have we had and has it outpaced 2024, 2023? And so far, every single month, as you know, more new listings than we've seen any year in the last couple years. And I think April's on track to beat the last 2 years as well.
well, I just pulled up the Cromford report because they're coming out with their chart a day early. And
Mhm.
boy, Gilbert just took a nosedive. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll show it to you here real quick. They're sitting here at down 8%, Avondale down 10, Chandler. So Gilbert is almost right in the balanced area. And they're saying the prices are coming down here too. So they're saying that uh, that both average price per square foot on closed listings, and that's really important, closed listings, not active listings, have both plummeted in the last 2 weeks. The former is down 1.7, the latter 2% in just 14 days. At this point in the year, there is, in the year for such a move, this is a little farther away from me, I'm not a hard time reading it, is ominous, and we fear an overall CMI under 80 means prices will have to fall further from the current levels to restore balance to the market. In fact, the situation feels similar to the second quarter in 2022, back when the iBuyers were dumping all their homes. So, there's this fine line between saying, oh, this is really looking bad, and for buyers going, no, I'm kind of liking this.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I just had a listing where there was some repairs asked for from the buyer, and, I think they were a bit exaggerated, and my client, the seller, was just not interested in doing that, and buyer was real quick to cancel and walk away and had a second house ready to go. And that's what happens in a big inventory environment like this is buyers have choices and they will just drop you and walk away if they're not happy with your response to something. You just don't have the leverage as a seller that you used to.
I think the sellers have been a little slow in getting that reality. As I watched, the average list price at the beginning of the year was just way in the stratosphere. I
Mhm.
was comparing the average list price for the actual average close price, and it's this huge disconnect.
Mhm.
And what do you think of looking at the Zestimate now? How close do you think that is for people? Because I think it's really lagging.
Yeah, it's not. It's all over the place. And I was actually just on the phone with someone who asked me a similar question. And, it's not really taking into consideration, especially in areas, it kind of depends, right? But like if it's an area like Central Phoenix, where one neighborhood homes could sell for 400,000 and next door they're selling for $1 million, Zillow doesn't know that. They don't know what to do with that. So it's not going to be correct. And so oftentimes it's just like an average of what's going on around there. I went to meet with a seller last week, and their estimate was $150,000 higher than what both of us would have even like imagined their home to be worth, and obviously just way off because it was pulling from a nearby neighborhood. And that wasn't in Central Phoenix, that was like in a master planned community in the East Valley. So yeah, Zillow kind of is all
So
over,
the
I think.
pricing conversation, we have to spend a lot more time on that now because if you're going to sell, and it's not bad for sellers when you look at the equity that a lot of sellers have, and the time on the market is not dismal, but
Mhm.
it's kind of self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, they have to be realistic going into it and have to remember that it takes time, and, like, I think we all have to reprogram our brains, agents too, that, like, 30 days on market is like, "Okay, cool, we're just getting started," you know? It takes time.
yeah, and they have seeing a lot of for sale signs in a neighborhood now. Seems like there's a lot more homes being listed. I know down in Sun Lakes, I remember a comment a few months ago. And it was an agent. She said, "There's a record amount of listings down here in Sun Lakes." I look and I follow it. I look at number of listings all over the valley, and I thought, no, you have 100 and they had 178,
Yeah.
and the record is 323.
Mhm.
But she was
Mhm.
telling this whole group of people, oh, there's a record amount of but that's because they were down to like 8 at one point. And
Yeah.
so it seems like, oh my God, everything's,
Yeah.
and now you've got the Canadians listing, and
Mhm.
but that's not a big number.
Mhm. Yeah, it's not a big number in the grand scheme of things, but you can tell that there's been a shift for sure. The active listings, what's interesting about that is like, what are we at now? 27,000, something like that, I think.
Um, well, I pull out coming soons. Do you?
I just look at I pull out any under contract or pending. What
Okay,
they're
so I look at active and I remove coming soons, and I get 26,158. If
Okay.
I include active and coming soon, then let's see. Yes, I'm 26,973.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. For so long I've referenced like, how low inventory has been, and then, in 2008 we had like 50,000 listings. The closer we get to 30,000 listings, the more I'm like, "Oh boy, we're looking a little bit closer to that crazy 50,000 that we talk about being, such a drastic place to be." Um, so
I
I
don't
don't
see that
know.
happening.
I don't either. I don't know. I think, yeah, prices will come down before we get to 50,000 listings, I think. It's just that
Yeah.
buyer demand that won't budge right now.
Bebop here. She's got a question. She said, excuse me, shouldn't this be the time of year best for selling and to see what happens inventory and months of supply? It should be. A lot of people were anticipating it, and it's not. Some neighborhoods, it's really hard to move your home, especially out by the new builds. And she's saying, well, when do we expect the first headline of sales pricing drop? Well, that's the challenge, Bebop, because the sales prices are just now starting to drop.
Mhm.
We're getting a lot of price changes, but they're still above what I call the where they should be, the actual close prices, and that's that's going to take another 3 months before that actually makes it onto one of those local channels here. Terry says they're trying to spread her out in 3 states. They said, hold on, tons of foreclosures are stacking up. Over 12% of FHA loans are in some stage of foreclosure. We're not seeing that here. Um, in
Mhm.
fact, I'm seeing headlines nationally too that mortgage applications were up and sales were up, on a national scale. But
Mhm.
real estate's local. Here we got. Well, wait for Terra Vallis to be built. All Phoenix is spreading. It doesn't take much driving around the valley to go, geez, look at this.
I know. I know. So much going on in the West Valley too. Like, that is just but at what point is it not Phoenix Metro anymore? How far do we have to go?
Why hasn't rent come down?
Oh, you're asking me why hasn't rent come down?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Well, I think there's enough demand for it because it's cheaper than buying right now. So rentals are still hanging in there. That's my guess.
Yeah, we are the number one state for build to rent homes.
Mhm.
Um, and I think I saw all these apartments coming in. It just looks like total saturation. I'm seeing more first month free, no application fee. Seeing a lot of that stuff starting to creep in. So they'll do all that creative stuff before they lower rent. But
Mhm.
I think it's so much cheaper to rent now than to buy, especially with rates being where they're at. That that they're re-upping the lease, and some people are moving to the valley and going, well, I'm just going to wait it out. A lot of people sitting on their hands, maybe for all the right reasons. Any
Yeah.
speculation as to why Avondale is holding strong as a seller's market despite all of the new build supply? Let me look at that number there for Avondale.
121. It's up 10% month over month.
Yeah, why is that?
It's a great question.
I'm asking you all the hard
I
questions.
know. I was thinking the same thing, and it's a great point because there is a lot of new build supply there. I'm wondering if just their resale supply is low. We'd have to look. But maybe that's been pretty minimal for some reason and keeping it down.
We got just wait until the AG lawsuits hits Graystar later this year. I guess I didn't keep up on that, Bebop. Are they getting sued for fraud? It's a Graystar, for people who don't know, own a lot of the major complexes here in the valley. And Gretchen said it is cleaner. Um, I looking ahead, and I don't like to project out more than like one quarter. Um, I don't see a catalyst that tells buyers, all right, let's go.
Mhm.
I mean, Chairman Powell, he's European Union lowered their rates this morning, and we're sitting right there. He's afraid. He's afraid that tariffs are going to add to inflation, and so he's waiting out the data.
Mhm.
Trump is going. I'm going to fire this guy, but it's we're at a stalemate. And when you've got a lot of uncertainty, everybody sits. We had all that uncertainty before the election. I'm going to wait till after the election. Now we
Mhm.
had the election. I go, God, I'm still going to wait.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I don't see summer springing back up.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't see rates really taking a turn, and that's a lot of what we're waiting for. I think even if prices come down, there's still the fear of uncertainty. I just don't see buyers being like ready to go. And it's just yeah, I don't know. It's all kind of just cooled, and people I think are kind of watching and waiting a little bit.
I think when I look out at for affordability for a first time home buyer, that's not a switch that's going to flip real quick.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
this could be, and this is going to sound crazy, but for all of the reasons that real estate could come down, it could actually be said that we could have another period where prices go flying up before the wheels fall off the wagon.
Mhm. It could. Yeah. Stranger things have happened, you know? I feel like every time people anticipate a correction or even a crash, we end up going opposite direction somehow.
Yeah, and people are still trying to treat home purchases like a stock purchase because went in 2021 you could buy and sell it in a week and do okay. And speaking of that,
Right.
Open Door wasn't making money in 2021.
Mhm.
I, I don't get it. But have you seen their stock price?
I have not. How's it doing?
Well, it was in 2021. It was $44 a share.
Okay.
Today it's 98 cents.
Oh my goodness.
And now let's circle back to Redfin for a moment because their stock plummeted, their earnings plummeted. They used to be a $50 billion company,
Mhm.
and Rocket Mortgage purchased them for 7.1 billion.
Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't even that much. It was 1.7 billion. I
Oh,
mean, they got a huge bargain on. They bought Mr. Cooper for 7.1 billion. But
okay.
so okay, so who's going to buy Open Door?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There
Zillow?
has maybe, but Zillow had their own program that they don't really do anymore. Like,
But they
you know?
kind of are partnering with Open Door on some aspects. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm speculating and thinking they're probably going to do that. John here says, are sellers still not acknowledging the economic reality, or have they accepted that they're going to get other asking price? We're getting there. Sellers are getting it. There's still a lot of them just saying, I'm see if I can get this. If I can't, I'm going to take the house
Mhm.
off the market. So,
Mhm.
and somebody here says, if we're talking stock prices, let's look at Pulte, DR Horton, and Lennar. Yeah, Bebop, they have gone down, but it's when it comes to these portals like Open Door, OfferPad, and then I don't understand the Redfin purchase by Rocket
I
for
don't
a
either.
couple reasons. One, they're primarily on the West Coast,
Mhm.
and the news is saying, well, they've got W-2 employees. I go, no, they did. They put them back on commission because that was draining them.
Mm.
And so you click on Rocket, you get your pre-approval, and then maybe you're on the same portal and you pick your agent, and he's a low fee agent. So you grab them and you go out, and then they have their own servicer, which quite honestly, if you're buying a house, do you really care who your servicer is on your mortgage?
No. Nope.
So they're trying to bundle this thing together.
Mhm.
And then now Zillow, because they want to compete with Zillow, now Zillow's got to have somebody like Open Door to help them, kick Redfin back on their heels. So
Mhm.
I don't know. Terry says they need a Doge exam. Uh,
A lot of interesting real estate news in the industry. If I mean, I know a lot of consumers may not follow it as much, but just a lot of companies buying other companies and merging and the new lines in the sand that are being drawn from Zillow of not promoting any off-market properties, and is it homes.com is like kind of going against them. It's like drama daily.
oh, it's amazing. I want to touch on that topic too about what the battle between Zillow and Compass. I want to answer this question first. Do you see new builds base price dropping in the West Valley?
Yeah, potentially. I know it's been
When they
happening.
run out of incentives, they'll start dropping the base price.
I know it's happened, particularly in the East Valley, and I can't remember the community, but I know it happened, and I've heard people talking about that happening in other areas as well. So I could see that happening in West Valley, especially because there is so much new build competition there.
Yeah, Bebop, I'm going to throw a couple charts up here in a moment. Thanks for asking. Okay, so let's explain what's going on. So Compass owns a whole bunch of brokerages all over the country, and they got with National Association of Realtors and got them to approve what's it called, delayed listings.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep it in house because this is evidently somehow in some weird universe better for the seller. So the only way you can see it is if you get on one of Compass's websites or portals.
Mm-hmm.
Zillow and EXP said, no, no, no. We're not going to allow those delayed listings to even show up on Zillow. We want clear cooperation. Clear cooperation is when you get a listing, you've got 24 hours to put it on the MLS so that everybody can see it and share it.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got these, it's okay for people to say, well, I'm just going to have it over here, way back in the old days. And I just don't understand the incentive except for Compass.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's, but those are inside battles that I think are going to lead to more lawsuits. So what's
For
your
sure.
thought on single family rental communities popping up? Seeing a lot off the 303. Does this have legs or will it die out when rates drop? I think it's going to have longevity
Mm-hmm.
because I think their rent will eventually drop, maybe. Again, I'm no economist, but they, when you think about living in an apartment, you got people upstairs, downstairs, you got to take your dog in the elevator, hope he doesn't pee in the elevator on the way down to the yard. And so these rent to own homes are very attractive for people.
Mm-hmm.
Not rent to own, build to rent. I keep calling them rent to own. So, I think they're going to be around for a while.
Yeah, as long as they don't overdo it, we're seeing a lot of them. So I don't know if they
They're
could
not attractive.
overbuild. Yeah. Mhm.
Drive by them. They're kind of neat when you go in the community because they're built as a community and they got patios and
Mhm.
playgrounds. This is one of my favorite charts, Caitlin, and they don't update it as much as I
Mhm.
thought they would, or as I think they should. But that blue line is active listings, and the red line is closed transactions, closings. And there's a big gap now, and that is screaming price drops. And so we're seeing it now. See the number of price changes we're getting. Back to somebody's earlier question. We were 3,647 2 weeks ago, and now 3,703. People
Mhm.
just saying, okay, and here's rates. This is a rate survey, 6.87. That's assuming a good credit rate, good credit score and stuff. And here's our month's supply. We went down to 3.7, and now we're at this is the end of March here. It's showing 3.9. Last time I checked, I think that was like 4.3. Let me see if I can find that again here. Is that months of supply? Where's this at?
Um,
I got to go back up to the tablet charts. Months of supply with.
mhm.
I want this without you. 3.9. Well, that kind of surprised me. I thought it was closer to 4.3. But
Did you see their report on the days of inventory in the different price ranges?
I did. I thought that was really interesting. Uh,
Mhm.
and it showed, let's see if we can get days of supply here, days of inventory. Um,
Mhm.
and that's our overall average. And
Mhm.
Candace, we'll get to your question in a moment. This line is the average, right? The over 11 years,
Yeah, long-term average.
68.2, and now we're 120.1. But then you filter everything out and just put in condos, and they went from 67 to 145. Condos are getting harder to sell. But the real surprise for all of us was I started saying, what price range is doing okay? And what I discovered was between 500 and 800. So I'm pulling out everything else. Let's see. I want to make sure I don't have a $10 million house there. But look at that. They're sitting about average. So that 500, 800,000 range,
Mhm.
not bad.
Mhm.
That, and I think over a million was doing well, but the stock market's getting spanked. Um,
Yeah. We'll see how that changes because it has that's what I thought was really interesting is like and we've been talking about this for a while that luxury is still doing really, really well. But that's not accounting for the last like 2 weeks of turmoil. So that could change things.
the numbers have really changed in the past 2 weeks.
Mhm.
For what we get to dive in and look at, it's just, Pat, I have him on the show, about every 2 weeks now. We decided to go 2 weeks to the weekly because not a whole lot was changing. We just called it muddling along.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
our muddling along has kind of changed a little bit this week.
Yeah. Yeah. It starts getting exciting again.
Yeah, I know. So how about HUD announcing the COVID-19 recovery loss mitigation options are extended throughout and will expire on September 30th, 2025. I don't know how big that number is.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. I know, the COVID-19 losses in real estate, think about that. The people that got um, um, had to get some relief during COVID. That's 4 years ago. In
Mhm.
the meantime, their house has gone up almost 40, 50%. So they could probably sell and break even or come out ahead. Um,
Mhm.
what do you estimate the percent to be in ARM loans out of the last 4 quarters pools? I'd have to ask a mortgage guy that. I
Yeah.
don't know, and I don't know if I can even see that on the rates. I know that I'm getting a young couple into a house right now. They're putting a pretty big chunk of money down, and his lender said, we'll look next year and refi you if rates are down. They're not getting an adjustable rate mortgage. He said it doesn't make sense for you to
Mhm.
buy your rate down.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
if rates are already trending that way. He says you're throwing good money away.
Mhm.
So
I can say anecdotally, I have seen very, very few arms with my buyers,
yeah,
if any. So I don't know. That's just my experience though.
I like certainty.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
KC3, the biggest issue right now is a catalyst for rates dropping is bad for the overall economy. Higher employment, if that's the case, who's buying the house with job uncertainty? Wealthy people. Um, yeah, uh, if we start seeing rates really coming down, then we have a bigger problem.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yay, we're going to have a recession. The problem with recessions is you don't know it until 13 weeks later. It's just,
Mhm.
if we have a crash, you're probably unemployed.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
I was going through that. I mean, you remember driving around in 2009 and 10, just looking at these neighborhoods. Just
It was a different time. Yeah. And but I guess, if rates do go down, it could be some other problem. Like it could, of course, be unemployment or the economy, but COVID was not that, right? So we don't want another COVID, but it could be some extenuating circumstance that comes out of the blue that drops rates again. But I also don't think like we never need to go back to 3% rates. Like that's not realistic. That's unhealthy. If we could just get them to a more affordable range, 5%, 6% even.
there's that fine line dance that we're doing right now. We'd like to get rates down to a range where buyers can afford to get in, but how long would that affordability even maintain itself?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm
Mhm.
back in. Now prices start going back up again. There went your affordability.
Mhm.
Can even with rates coming down, does that solve affordability? And so I know that Chairman Powell has said that he would like to see housing come down gradually,
Mhm.
and I'd like to see us come down on everything gradually. I'd like people have time to adjust then, and
Mhm.
but I don't like wild swings up or down. I think
Mhm.
this tariff thing is just, it's new. We haven't seen it. We've seen it before, but not at this scale. Nobody knows how to deal with it. It's an announced tariff that, you know, hasn't taken effect yet, so there's a lot of negotiation, and people are just sitting back going, uh, you know,
Mhm.
what's this question here? Why are realtors nowadays more interested in protecting relationships and not hurting people's feelings than doing their jobs and doing price discovery? I don't think that's happening. Hurting their feelings? I mean, describe a listing appointment. We go in, every listing appointment I go in, they already have their price, right?
Mhm.
And where'd they get it? Well, Zillow,
Yeah.
neighbors. Some
Mhm.
of them do some real due diligence. And
Mhm.
so we end up looking at the comps together and going, okay, here's the one down the street that sold for 650, and how does your house compare to that one? What do you think? It's
Mhm.
a long conversation.
Mhm.
It
Yep.
isn't, if you're looking for a realtor and you're listing your house and you're only picking the one that gives you the highest price, you're dead in the water.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I will say I think I hurt people's feelings left and right if that's the case. I'm honest because the last thing I want to do is take an overpriced listing because then I have spent money I'm never going to get back. So I'm going to be honest, and I know I've lost opportunities because of that, but then I also usually see them expire off the market later on down the road.
Yeah, there's a misconception that we want the highest price because if it's the highest price, we don't earn a dime, and we had to pay to put the sign up, we had to pay for photography, we had to pay for the flyers, not to mention the countless hours. I heard the DOJ was said that they would like to see us get paid by the hour, and I'm like, bring it.
I know, right? I think everyone was like, "Sure, I'll bill ya."
I'll do that.
Yep.
Gosh,
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many trips. That was the bad thing about when the market was really hot was I'd never shown so many houses where I couldn't write a contract.
Mhm.
You had to
Oh,
write
that's
it in the
funny.
driveway.
Literally, yeah. If you didn't have an assistant, like, doing it for you back in the office, you were missing out. Either that or you stayed parked and you wrote it right there.
Yeah, yeah. I'll never forget one house we went to, and they were all lined up on the sidewalk. And this agent comes up. She was very arrogant. She goes, "I have a 10:15. You'll all have to wait." And I said, "Look around it. Obviously, everybody has a 10:15 appointment." She goes, "Well, you're going to have to wait till I come out." And she goes in the house and closes the door. I
Oh.
twisted the doorknob and I go, "Come on." And we all walked in. She was livid, just livid. But, it was brutal out there.
Yeah.
13% of FHA borrowers have been relying on taxpayers to pay their mortgage. About time we start seeing the capitulation. Um, here is there's a tariff comment here. Tariffs spiking material costs you have seen for new builds, labor costs due to shortage? I don't see anything yet.
Not yet.
I mean, I think Canada, there's been a 30% tariff on Canadian lumber for ages.
Mhm.
So threatening with 25 would be a 5% discount. Our problem is we don't have any mills anymore.
Mm.
And I grew up in tree country, Washington State. I watched the logging industry just get obliterated. Do
Mm.
sellers still pay for the realtor? Lexi's asking.
Yeah. Well, they pay their listing agent. The buyer's agent, that is all up to you as the seller. You can decide if you want to offer compensation or not. You can wait until you receive an offer and decide how much you want to pay them. Typically, what I'm seeing right now is buyer's agents are still asking to be paid as part of the offer. And then that's up to you based on the terms of the offer if you want to pay their fee.
Yeah, and and it's always been out there that way. I think this lawsuit, all it did was just increase a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of our forms in the real estate industry are assigned to an acronym.
Mhm.
It's just,
Yes.
I
Yes.
can't keep up, Caitlin. I just
I
can't.
know. The cab, the SCA, the
Yeah.
PC. Yep, there's a lot.
I was in the bread business. I was working in upstate New York, and we had acronyms for everything.
Yeah.
And it got to be such a joke. I was their regional sales manager. I had a really great crew. And I sent them all an email that was 100% acronyms.
And they could still decipher it.
They understood it, and they
Yeah.
thought it was funny. They just said, "The sad part is, Rick, I know what you're saying." All
It's a
acronyms.
new language.
If Powell still has a job, Fed's not going to lower rates until the Phoenix market's trash, which means there'll be no no jobs. I mean, there's talk out there that says that that he tends to lean in the back. Um, in other words, he doesn't react fast enough. That's for greater minds than me. You listen to business channels and you think your hair hurts listening to acronyms. Try to follow these guys. Like even this tariffs will cause the price of things to go up in ways people don't expect. You can get people saying, well, yeah, if they go into effect. So I work in IT. Don't talk to me about acronyms.
That's a
We got a
true
great
statement.
audience today. Yeah. We have here so much uncertainty with tariffs, a 10-year stalled. I feel like a lot people banking on refinancing if rate drops are now selling because rates are still rough. What did you think of Marry the House, Date the Rate when that was
Mm.
being promoted?
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't great. That was not a good idea. It wasn't a good thing to promote. There's yeah, but I don't know that we saw the fallout that people expected from that because we're beyond 2 years from that where a lot of those like 2-1 buy downs were expiring. So I don't know. It wasn't great.
I think the thing that bothered me the most was, it only takes one real estate broker or one title agency to coin the phrase on social media, and then everybody runs with it.
Mhm. I know.
Um,
Yeah, it just in reality, it's just not that flexible. You don't have that much control. So
I saw an Instagram post 2 weeks ago. Rates are down. House prices are going to go up. Let's get going. Call me for help.
no.
And well, what happened to rates? They went back up. So I thought, well, you got to take it easy.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got
you
to
do.
you got to be patient.
Uh-huh. There's nothing certain, and especially right now, things change so much. I mean, when I release my market update videos, I'm like, "Oh god, I hope nothing goes sideways in the next 24 hours because people will think I'm just totally disconnected." But I'm like, I gotta record this a day ahead of time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's hard to keep up with right now.
Yeah, I have one that comes out on Sunday night. I typically record on Friday morning.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
same thing, like, well, I don't know. And the majority of the people view it on Monday. I'm
Yeah.
like, boy, I don't know what's going I started this channel right when they said, stay home 2 weeks, flatten the curve,
Mm.
which worked incredibly well. And I thought, well, I just got to keep people up to date because nobody was showing houses.
Mhm.
Some
Yeah.
brokerages were not even allowing their agents to show houses,
Right.
uh, even though we're independent contractors. But so I said, well, let me just bring people up to speed. And my first video, I did a live stream. I recorded some videos, but then I tried doing a live event using Zillow. It's still on my channel. 5 years later, it's still only got 75 views.
Oh, wow.
It was horrible. And it's one of those things where, and I was doing it with Pat. We on? And I'm looking. Okay, I think, yeah, we're live. Hi, Pat. And Pat's like, Pat, you got to turn on your mic. He turns on his mic and his video disappears.
Oh,
I
no.
leave it up for entertainment value. So
Yeah.
if
It's a
you
good
want to go
one.
back and dig that one up, we got here home and car insurance will go up as actuaries figure out the cost to repair cars and homes will increase. They're already up. Let's see. Do either of you track rental concessions? I'm seeing apartments offering 8 weeks, some even 3 months, but propping up rental rates. Concessions seem not to be factored into rental rates. I don't track it.
Mm-mm. I don't either.
My radar's up, and because I'm tooling around, I'm kind of helping a young man search for a place now, so I'm on the web a lot, kind of looking around. And I see the sales that are on there. Here's Debbie M saying hi there, and but I think here's one on appreciation. Do you think the home appreciation will stall in the next 5 to 10 years? Go up 3% a year, down 3%, drastically spike up? What would your best guesses to be if you had to make a prediction? I'm not a big fan of shooting myself in the foot.
Oh, 5 to 10 years is a long time. I mean, I don't even know if I could, predict 3 years, but I think what I think if we were to look at home values 10 years from now, I think there's a good chance they'll be higher than they are today. Um, I think the journey to get there, I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah,
Which I know
5
isn't
years from
gonna
now,
help.
I will be older and probably have less hair.
Me too.
No, you'll
I'll
have
have
all your
I'll
hair.
have some more grays coming in,
Yeah,
that's for sure, if I stay in
yeah.
this business.
No, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, well, sometimes you go, "Why did we do it?" Um,
Uh-huh.
it's fun. I enjoy it. Um, the one thing I've learned here on YouTube is that there's like a couple different audiences. There's an audience that says it's going to crash, and I'm going to be on here giving you comments, convincing you it's going to crash. And then there is people that want to actually see some data and form a decision. And sometimes those crash comments come in so fast and furious that I kind of stop responding. I mean, I get it. You're
Mhm.
convinced the market's going to go down. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm, you don't have to sell me. I'm still going to wake up tomorrow morning and go, okay, where are we?
Mhm.
See what's going
Mhm.
on.
Yep. Yep.
Eventually, the European Union will spike, the Fed will drop rates, but long term rates might not move much because the government will be spiraling towards bankruptcy. Too much risk in the 20, 30-year bonds. Debt's an issue, Ace. The debt fuse has been lit. I just don't know how long the fuse is.
Mhm.
We could muddle through this debt situation another 5 years, 8 years. We could have some kind of miracle where the economy is growing like crazy and we've leveled off on our spending and things kind of eke its way out. That's certainly the pipe dream. But I don't know. I mean, I hope so.
Mhm.
I hope that debt gets resolved. I just don't. It's after all these years, it's hard to hang on and hope that they're going to do that.
Mhm.
Which means one of the ways to get out of the debt situation is to inflate our way out of it. So this house that's $500,000, you could end up like Toronto where it's 1.1 million, and we're going to sit back and go, "How did that happen?" Well, we're
Yeah.
inflating our way out of it.
Yeah.
You now make 400,000 a year. Congratulations.
Yep. Mhm.
So there's a lot of moving parts that they didn't teach us in real estate school.
Mhm. Well, let's talk about what they actually taught us in real estate school.
How not to get sued.
How many square feet are in an acre? That's about it.
Oh man, I when I started real estate school, I know people are not signing in here to hear about our real estate school stories, but I hadn't been to a class in I don't know how long. And when I was at meetings, I had my staff and everybody come with me, and I'm used to turning going, "You're writing this down, right?" And now I'm sitting in this class going, "Oh God, I gotta write."
I gotta write it down. Yeah.
I
Oh.
hope prices go down, but I know they're not going to keep renting a room until I'm 80.
Oh.
No, you're not, Richie. I mean, if you're renting a room, I'm seeing investors buying houses for house hacking. Are you seeing a lot of that, Caitlin?
Yeah, well, I haven't worked with any, but I have heard a number of people bringing that up, asking questions and being curious about that method. So I know what's going on. I mean, but I think I wanna say it was like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years. That was happening a lot in California, like in LA. I was hearing a lot about that, so I'm not surprised it's making its way into popularity over here too.
My son was in a house in Tempe. He was living with 10 people. This was a few years ago. I said, "How does this work?" Well, one person's in charge of garbage, one person's in charge of kitchen. They had this whole system worked out. They were just
Wow.
like passing ships in the night.
Wow.
And but I was had a email conversation with a gentleman that got a good deal on a house in Gilbert, and it's a 6 bedroom home. And he says what you have to look for is you got to have ample parking.
Mhm.
And so he likes so to explain to Debbie here. She says what is house hack? That's finding 6 and 8 bedroom homes. Littorio versus riparian. Jeremy, you're gonna give me I'm gonna have a seizure here.
Don't take us back.
Yeah, don't do it, please. Um, I I I did poorly on the math. So you get a house that, you're gonna rent it for 2,400 a month, or you're gonna charge rent by the room. Now you got 6 people, 4 people that you gotta do individual background checks on. So exponentially, you make more money, instead
Mhm.
of 20. 400. Now you're probably getting 3,000. And
Mhm.
but it can't be in an HOA neighborhood because you can't park that many cars. So there aren't that many homes that are available to do that, but they're scooping it up. And A says sounds like living in a frat. Yeah, it's all Animal House all over again. So, but well, Caitlin, I want to thank you for coming on. It's great to see you again, and
Yeah, you too.
good luck with your channel. I've been a big fan watching it grow like crazy.
Thank you.
You're on every Monday, and I get on to see, what did she show? I want to see if I missed anything. And we pretty much have the same audience. I recognize a lot of names on the chat here, and it's
Yeah.
just it's a lot of I like the live streams. It's a lot of fun to
Yeah.
get to, see some people. So
Yeah, I agree. We should do these more often, maybe like monthly or something like that,
yeah, well, we'll
and
have
go
to like
over
bet a
some.
dollar on some type of measurement and
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
pass
Make
it to you. You
make it
grab it.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have a
Love
great
it.
weekend and a happy Easter, and thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you maybe in a month.
Yeah. All right, you too. Thanks, Rick.
See ya.